I mean, what's the plan? How are we going to get out without further violence in Iraq? How are we going to get out without having helicopters lift off the last troops from the embassy in the green zone? And so I'm having to respond, and my response keeps being that that's actually not my job. You know, there are people who know how to plan these things. The Pentagon is superb at planning things. They just haven't been asked to plan the right things. But I am getting a little bit of that.
Well, that's the big question. As usual, the administration is spinning it, saying we can't have precipitous withdrawal. Well, nobody's talking about precipitous withdrawal. First of all, you can't get everybody out there overnight by saying Shazam. It's going to take a year minimum, 18 months to 2 years, to do it safely, to get the equipment out that you don't want to leave there, and to protect the Iraqis, the contractors, the people who stay behind. Will there be chaos? There won't be chaos in Kurdistan. Kurdistan is fine. There might be a little fighting on the border over Kirkuk. There's not going to be much chaos in Roundable in the west because it's all Sunni, and the Sunnis are fighting Al-Qaeda, and once we leave, Al-Qaeda has no reason to be there. There's not going to be a whole lot. There'll be Shia on Shia fighting in the south. We're not there now, and I don't suggest we get in there. I mean, it's going to happen whether or not we're there. So that leaves Baghdad, which has turned from 65% Sunni to 75% Shia. And we've had an ethnic cleansing. And there will be a problem, but if you focus on that problem and not raise all these other specters, I think you can withdraw and give them as good a chance as possible to put together a federal state with a weak central government. And hopefully, the real moral question is, which George Bush ignores, what about the 4 million Iraqi refugees? What about the several 100,000 thrown in the lot with us? We have agreed to allow in 7,000 Iraqis this year. We have so far not even hit 1,000. The Swedes have agreed to let in 70,000. We resettled 120,000 Vietnamese, because that's all we could get out at the time, in 6 months. But if this administration admits that those Iraqis are not going home, then they've admitted their own failure. So, I mean, it is a totally immoral position to not give much more help to both the refugees in Jordan and Syria, even in Syria, hopefully through NGOs and not the government, as well as to let those folks who put in their lot with us to get out. But if you don't think about getting out, you're never going to address that issue. And I think that's one of the big problems that we have to force the administration to face.
Virtually everyone now seems to agree that there is no military solution to Iraq. That the only way that this thing is going to be resolved, most is through a political compromise, through a political accommodation. Everybody sober at least, seems to agree that that's the case. The question is, how do we get there? Well, first of all, let's ask the Iraqi people what they think. Do they think that the presence of our troops are helping to create the breathing space necessary for political accommodation and reconciliation and helping to stabilize them? 70% of the Iraqi people, when asked that question in an ABC-BBC poll 2 weeks ago, 70% said that the presence of our troops and the surge particularly have made things worse, have made the violence worse, and have made the chances of political accommodation and reconciliation that much less. If you ask them, well, do you think that American troops should be there at all? 97% of Sunnis and 83% of Shia say that the United States should be out within a year. That the presence of our troops are making things worse, not better. And 2/3 of them think it's so bad that it's perfectly justified to shoot at our troops, to do harm to our occupied troops. Now, you cannot possibly create stability and security in a situation in which most of the country wants you out and most of the country wants you dead. And if you look at this government and you look at what's happened in terms of the political progress, it has gone absolutely in the opposite direction. This is not a national government as we would would think of it. This is a Shia-dominated group that is pushing its agenda and pushing its interests to such a degree that, as Dick said, we went from a 65% population of Baghdad, Sunni, to 75% Shia. There's ethnic cleansing going on right now. So it seems to me the first thing you do is when you find yourself in a hole, the first principle is to stop digging. You stop making things worse. And you announce that we're going to leave Iraq, that we will not have a permanent bases in Iraq, that we're going to move our troops out as quickly as we can safely and securely get them out, and then we're going to become a partner in what the Iraq Study Group has talked about as a robust surge of diplomatic activity, and bring those players both in the country and outside of the country that have a direct stake in what happens there and to prevent an implosion from going on there, to be part of a diplomatic initiative to make sure that occurs.